Sangeeta in conversation with CEO.
Welcome, Mila. So today I have a very special guest, Mila Vanderberg, amongst us viewers. She is the co-founder and CEO of KIndiedays, a company dedicated in early education solutions. So Mila, I would request to tell something about yourself to my audience. And I'm really thankful that you agreed to come and do this conversation with me. Thank you so much.
Happy to be here. So, yes, my name is Mila and greetings from Helsinki, Finland. I have over 15 years of experience in the early childhood education field, and I definitely have passion for innovation, and the Finnish pedagogical expertise is what my heart is filled with. I have worked hands-on with children, trained educators globally, and led curriculum development rooted in the Finnish practices and values. But for the past years, I have been learning about the Indian curriculum practices and culture. And I'm very delighted to be here to share perhaps both a bit about both.
Thank you so much, Mila, for that introduction. And I hope my parents will understand the best curriculum in the world, the Finnish curriculum, and it will help them to know early years education in a much better way today. So, as you have been doing a lot of research about India, you must have known that Indian parents worry a lot about reading, writing, and doing worksheets. They are
Mm,
studying. They're studying. And if they're
mm,
not doing that, if they're not reading, writing, or finishing their worksheet, then they're not. So, how do you think Finnish approach can address this concern while still ensuring
mm,
that children are ready for schools and parents are happy also? As we were talking about play, it's a very common misconception that children are just playing. How would you explain that there
mm.
is a learning happening in that process?
When parents see children play, they often see that the children are having fun. But educators see learning, and especially from the Finnish perspective, we see plenty of learning taking place. Globally speaking, what I have felt is that parents are not against play, but worksheets, perhaps they feel convincing because they are familiar to the parents. Most parents grew up with them in India. They are easy to see, easy to measure, and they create a sense of structure. And most importantly, they feel safe. So when parents ask for worksheets or textbooks, they're usually not rejecting play, but they are asking for reassurance that their child is truly learning. But then again, we know that when children play with blocks, they are not just playing, they are solving problems, developing fine motor skills, persistence, collaboration. So, one way that I share with the parents and with the teams, speak the parents' language when you describe the playtime. So, instead of
True.
saying time, we could talk about language development, early math thinking, self
True.
regulation. It
True.
is about meeting the parents where they are and using words they already trust. And when they realize that the play play equals language development, I'm sure that they would be happy to see their child happy and learning.
True. You talked about building blocks. So there's a pre-math concept that's happening there, right? Language is getting developed. Today's children are growing in a digital world. We cannot ignore, right? So how do you guys can balance this without feeling guilty?
Yes,
That's something,
I understand.
every parent, every parent wants to know.
Absolutely. Being a parent myself, I often feel the pressure from both sides. Some people say that the technology is bad, and others say children need it for the future. And this is a bit of a trouble here. But I think the answer is balance. Technology, it should not replace movement, social interaction, outdoor play, creativity, family conversations. We should not have the TV while we're having dinner. So if we would look at it rather from that perspective, and I think a useful question for parents is not how much screen time, but what is the screen time replacing? And if a child is also playing outside, talking with family, building things, drawing, and interacting with others, technology can be one part of a healthy childhood. So not to carry the guilt, because I at least sometimes I carry the guilt. But then, of course, the type of content matters. Not all screen use is the same. And this
True.
distinction is important from a developmental perspective, because passive use, such as just watching videos or scrolling, requires very limited cognitive engagement. So the child is mainly receiving information, often at a fast-paced pace, without actively processing or interacting with it. But in contrast, active use involves participation. So if you utilize the technology for things that children can create, make decisions, engage with content in a more meaningful way, then again, from learning perspective, this sort of active use has greater potential to support development when you're involving thinking, reflection, or interaction. So not ban all screens, but what is it replacing? And what is the content? Is it involving thinking and interaction? And
Very,
then as parents, we don't need to feel so guilty.
very true, very true. When they are interacting, then learning is happening. But
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, passive learning is, there's so much content. So
Mm,
sometimes it does happen. But if we are conscious and we consciously, take
mm.
care of this, I think learning will keep on happening. And technology, we cannot escape that, right? We
No.
ourselves are all in today's time. World is changing rapidly. AI is
Mm.
coming. Global travel has increased. So, what skills do you that only academic achievement or academic grades, especially in early years?
Academic knowledge matters, of course, but the knowledge changes. And we always share that and remind parents that the children entering preschool today will likely work in jobs that do not yet exist. And that is why I believe skills such as the curiosity, creativity, communication, collaboration, resilience, and problem solving are incredibly important. So this is what in Finland we are building the children in early education, but this is crucial exactly for this rapidly changing world as well. And the early years are the perfect time to nurture these kind of skills because children are naturally curious and eager to explore.
True. And I think our NEP also is this,
Yes.
and all this we are talking about Finnish curriculum. In Finland, it is often associated happiness and well-being together. Right? So what does early childhood education play helping in children becoming confident, resilient, and happy individuals?
Happiness is not about always being cheerful, and you would notice if you come to Finland. But in Finnish early childhood education, there is a strong emphasis on well-being, relationships, and sense of belonging into the group and into the community. Children need to feel safe and valued and accepted before they can fully engage in learning. I think that's what we truly drill in the Finnish settings and in the Finnish early education. And when children experience success and make choices and solve problems, they develop confidence. And resilience grows when children are allowed to try and fail and try again in a supportive environment. And early education helps create the emotional foundations that support well-being throughout life. So we can't force the children to start learn maths if they are yet not confident and resilient and okay to fail and try again.
So resilience is very important life skills that children should know.
Meaningful learning does not require special activities. It doesn't require that you sit the child down and study for an hour or two. Some of the best learning happens during ordinary moments. So cooking together develops mathematics and language, or taking the child grocery shopping develops observation and decision making. Conversations during a car ride or at the dinner table develop vocabulary and critical thinking. Reading a story before bedtime every day may be a lot more valuable than an hour of structured teaching once a week. And I bet that moment, if you just take that every evening that you read to the child, even really more important things will go through than sitting when they are tired and revising maths or language. And even more, if I think about my own child and our bedtime story moment, which we would never skip. But even more important is that moment after the book. And often my 6-year-old asks that, can we still talk, he says. And I would love to say that I have the dishes and I have this and that, but I try to dedicate that okay, we can talk. What would you like to talk about? And he can come up with anything. It can be a problem he faced with the friend in the preschool, or I got a question last week. I got a question from my son that, what is the worst word in Finnish language? He wanted to know, what is the worst word in Finnish language? And I was thinking, okay, how do I answer that? And this was brilliant conversation that was sparked from that, even philosophical and about the wrong and right and multiple aspects. So allow your child to ask questions, give them time for that. And that's where learning can happen, in those ordinary moments.
Very true, that bedtime story time is such a powerful, time that parents think, giving 2 to 3 hours is important, but that 15, 20 minutes or half an hour is very important, really. And, I think my next question you've already answered that sometimes parents ask, how do I know my child is learning? So as you just said, the dinner time can be the language development. So the and anything else that you would like to add on to that, and how do I know my child is learning, away from traditional tests
Yeah.
and the worksheets?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I guess instead of asking that, can my child complete this worksheet, we could ask, what can my child do today that they couldn't do a few months ago? And focus on things like, is your child asking more questions? Are they using richer language? Are they solving problems? Are they playing cooperatively, showing curiosity? These are powerful indicators of learning.
Great. So,
Mm,
again, as we're talking about KIndiedays and its curriculum, you are
mm,
present across the globe. How do you ensure that a global curriculum respects local cultures, traditions, family values, and especially a diverse country like ours, or your traditions, norms are there? So, how do you ensure that it respects all the cultures?
Surely care about this very deeply. And in fact, we don't believe in exporting a Finnish classroom to another country as it is. Children should learn through experiences that reflect their own language, culture, traditions, community. And what we share are the educational principles, such as the play-based learning, child participation, observation-based assessment, holistic development, and how those principles come to life should always reflect the local context. And in
Right.
India, for example, it would be the festivals. You have a lot of beautiful celebrations, stories, traditions, family values can become very rich learning opportunities within a child-centered approach. So that's my key message is that the pedagogical principles can be global, but the implementation is local, and we definitely encourage that.
As you said, I just remembered one thing during our New Year, which is called Bisakhi. I all
Mm.
tell my students the story of little red hen. because the Basak is a harvest festival where wheats are grown and farmers of northern India celebrate that. We we sent the little one all the way from US to Punjab to celebrate. So as you said, learning automatically happens and they learn through
Right.
that story. So thank you so much for this kind of an insight. I think all my parents will understand and they can relate also. Today, before I end the conversation, if you could share one message with my parents of young children to
Mm.
what it would be, something you wish parents understand about childhood.
Perhaps that would be that the childhood is not a race. And this must be the biggest difference between the Finnish parents and the Finnish early education center and then the traditional Indian one. So we don't see that the childhood is a race. There will always be another child who reads earlier, writes earlier, or learns a skill sooner, but development is not a competition. And what matters most is not whether a child reaches a milestone first. What matters is whether they develop a love of learning and confidence in themselves and a sense of well being. Children get only one childhood, so let's make sure that it's filled with curiosity and relationships, play, joy, meaningful experiences, and those create the basis for learning and for their motivation and their confidence. Extremely important so that they can also get their achievements. But that would be it. Not a race. Sangeeta.
Very good, relationship is something so very important. And you sitting in Helsinki in Finland and me sitting in Burgh in India, still we are having this relationship. We are still having this conversation because there is this love for learning about each other's. Thank you so much, Mila, for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I definitely think parents of India and parents, who've been associated with me for very long will definitely understand how important play is in a child's life. Thank you so much. Namaste from
Thank
us
you.
to you.
Ja moi moi. Kiitos. Moi moi.
Bye bye.